Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. One of the most important things you can do to move your career further, even just move your life further, is to communicate effectively. And it's been said that one of the top three things that all of us fear is public speaking, presentations. The fear has escalated, especially with Zoom. One might think, well, it makes it easier because you don't have to be in front of people, but no, you're in front of a camera and there's other people there. We're going to help you out today with all of that: effective communication, effective public speaking, all presentations, all of that. This gentleman helps many people move their lives forward, and we're going to bring him in here today. Mike Fruciano joins us here on the program. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Steve. Thank you.
Welcome to our show. Tell me about your company, the name of it, and essentially what you guys do.
Yes, my company is called Effective Presentations. And I like to tell people we help people design and deliver presentations that people actually want to listen to. So we've been in business now for 2 decades. I started this company 20 years ago.
Wow, good for you. It's so important more than ever with technology as well. And for example, if you're on LinkedIn, great place to be if you want to move your career forward. But with that, you also have to provide content, and it's really good idea that you provide video. Many don't, and I get it because it's a little unnerving and there's some fear included in that. When we talk about presentations, what are some of the presentations that you help people with?
Well, really, it's helping people communicate clear, concise messages. And it's really interesting. Effective presentations, everything we do here is really based around communication, whether it be presentation skills, public speaking, but that really goes into sales, leadership, interpersonal skills, and we work with emerging leaders. So it's really broad. And even video, that's a lot of people wouldn't think that, but your video, exactly, how do you get your message across on video? And man, probably 13 years ago, I started it's our another sister company. It's called Extreme Media. And we do video, SEO, anything like digital marketing. And I remember somebody saying something, this is so weird. Why in the world would you do something that's completely different than your presentation skills? And my response was, what do you mean? It's exactly the same. It's just a different medium. So your website needs to communicate your message. So when somebody goes to your website, they know exactly what you do. And it's easy for them to find what they need. Your videos, what do you do? How do I get my message across so it's clear, concise, and to the point? The same thing with everything around digital marketing, just different medium.
Yeah, it's the communication, but effectively communicating it so somebody takes action. Yeah, okay, let's go digital. Google, you search for an ad, you find one. How is it worded compared to the competition? Well, if it's worded a certain way, you may be more compelled to click it and get a conversion from that point forward. How does somebody, let's go back to the public speaking part of it or the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
How does somebody gain confidence? That seems to be the one thing holding most people back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing that it's probably the biggest reason people contact us is the confidence, that confidence piece. And it's interesting how this works. Your confidence level always goes to where your skill level is. So if your skill level is down here, you can be excited and motivated and fired up one day, and all of a sudden your confidence goes way up, but it always comes right back to what your skill level is. So we can take your skill level and be able to bring that up several notches. That's where your confidence typically ends up right there. So we want to get somebody, their skill level is very high. Then it doesn't matter. They know when they walk into any meeting, any group, one-on-ones, large groups, that they're going to crush it every single time because they know the skills.
And they can rely on them. They have faith in themselves because I think one of the biggest things is, well, what if something goes wrong? What about if I ask a question and nobody responds? Well, there are tips and tricks that you can do to make sure that that doesn't happen. Why don't we get to some of them? Let's say somebody has to give a presentation, or let's go hypothetical. Let's say it's a networking event. You're there. You're an expert in a field. Let's say you do insurance, whatever it might be. And they said, yeah, we want you to speak next Wednesday. Can you come up and speak for, I don't know, we'll give you like 15 minutes.
Yep.
Golden opportunity, big room of people. You can start influencing them, maybe get some more leads, some more customers,
Mhm.
but you have to be able to effectively communicate. How do we do that in front of those people?
Well, it really boils down to a couple different things. It's your delivery on one side and your delivery piece of it. That's what people really see, remember, and take home. It's that delivery. And most people, they don't really put any thought into that one whole piece. They're thinking, what am I going to say? How do I take my outline? And so we have a couple different workshops that one of them is on the delivery piece, and it's a couple days. So we break down the art of presenting into a series of skills from the verbals, the nonverbals, techniques, results. It's knowing what to do with your body that
Mm,
makes the biggest impact. And once you have those down, you take those skills and you delegate each one of those to habit, then you never have to think about that again. And then the other piece of it is, what do you say? What's the content piece of it? How do you have that? How do you start a presentation? How do you close? Most people start, we don't even think about it. We just show up and here's what I do. And we just word vomit all over everybody. And it's not as effective as it could be. So that's what we help people really with their messaging as well. What's a power open? How are you
mm.
going to lay out that meeting so it's people know what to expect? And then another piece of it, you have to make people really think, why should I care? What's in it for me? Why should I pay attention? And when they set that up really well, then they have the audience right here at the palm of their hand the whole time. And it's really easy to be able to communicate your ideas.
Should you start and we're working on this hypothetical situation, networking event? You're speaking, got 15 minutes if you want to use all 15. Should you
Mhm.
start with a question?
Good. Great way to do that. Different question. Raise your hand if, launching into it that way. But there's so many different ways to have a power open. And you
Mm,
can transport them with you. Imagine, and then finish that sentence. But there's a lot of different ways.
sure.
But a question's a great way, or even starting off with a story. The story can be a phenomenal way to launch you into it as well. But I mean, there's so many different ways.
Yeah,
We go through
yeah.
our messaging class, we give them like 50 different ways to start presentations. And most people aren't going to use all of them because it's maybe not their personalities, but they're going to say, "Oh my gosh, these 15 or 20, that's," and then just take those and then rotate them. So it's not the same. And that's what most people do. We get the same one we love. And we use that over and over and over and over and over because we're used to it. Instead of, hey, it's new presentation, new people. Let's mix it up a little bit. So it's really exciting for you too. Because a lot of people deliver the same presentation over and over and over, and it gets stale.
And then you get stale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because you're doing the same thing over and over again. And it is exciting. That was the word I was thinking of, knowing that you have a different way to approach it. You have a plan. It's almost like presentation GPS. We're all guided, we don't get in the car unless we have GPS, unless you know where you're going. Uh, it just
Yeah.
makes it so much easier. What are some of the other, in this scenario, some other tips, hints, tricks that somebody could use to make that presentation better?
Well, one of them, I mean, something that's really easy is even your voice, having like with your voice, Steve, you just want to listen to it for a long time. It's a great voice because you have a lot of melody to your voice. It goes up and down, you have inflection. And that's one thing right there that brings people right in. Most people, I'm not saying they're monotone, but a lot of people are in this band, in this monotone
Mm,
band. You don't get above it, you don't get below it. And when you're in a band, it's really easy for people to check out. So when you take it, what do you want somebody to remember out of your presentation? And when everything sounds the same pitch, the same cadence, the same, people check out. But if you have something that goes down, maybe it's a whisper on one word, and then you start bringing them back up, and you're having a little bit of fun with your presentation. But the biggest thing is if you have passion, you're passionate, they're going to be passionate.
Mm.
I ask people all the time going, wow, you really don't like this part of your presentation, do you? No, I don't. How in the world are you going to get somebody else that's going to enjoy your presentation? Why in the world would you think they're going to like that if you don't like it?
It's about the energy, and that's my learning, that's my belief, that's been my study over the last number of years. The energy you put in, people receive that energy and react on it.
Oh, very true. So true. So that's one of the big three that I would call it for. One of the other ones is posture. When you're up there in front of a room, just having the posture, and then eye contact, that's another big one, and then voice. Those are probably the big three with delivery.
Hmm. I'll be honest with you. Saturday night, I was on stage. It was a concert. I had the opportunity to speak to the audience. There was some sad stuff there. Somebody passed away in media, and
Mm.
I honored them during it, but it was also a fun show as well. And I don't even know I'm doing it. Like, I look back, somebody shot video from their phone, and I looked at it and I'm like, oh, wow. All right. Ah, you're using hand gestures. I didn't even know I'm doing it. I just went out, and I wanted it to be genuine. And
Mhm.
I thought about what I wanted to say. Obviously, I don't have notes in front of me. Couldn't do it. It wouldn't be the right thing either. But I think that's effective too. Practicing in front of a mirror, watching yourself, how you're doing it. And eventually, I found it just becomes natural after a while. Do you feel the same?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
It's most people when you they hate to watch themselves. So when you say, "Hey, just videotape yourself," they're like, "Ah, no, don't want to do that."
I
Because most
agree.
people, yeah, they don't like watching themselves. And it's probably the biggest thing is they don't like listening to themselves. Probably one of the biggest ones right there. And like, oh, I'm going to look awful. I'm going to sound stupid.
Hmm.
And then when they watch it over and you're working with them, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, I do look pretty good." And once you
Right.
get past that, that's one of the big pieces that gives them confidence because the way you sound is different than the way they hear it. It's always different
Yeah.
because we hear it in our head. It goes through a little bone in your head and it distorts the sound. But when you're out there, we hear your voice through the natural acoustics in this room, and it's different.
100%. How many times I've heard from somebody say, "Yeah, am I going to sound good?" People like yourself doing a podcast. I have a cold. I'm not going to sound really. And I look at them and say, "I don't hear anything. You sound great. No problem." And even if you are really stuffed up, it's natural. Unless
Yeah,
you're really at the point where you feel you should be in bed. That's different. But
right.
we hear, and I've done it many times myself, where it's like, oh, yeah, I can hear, well, I sound really stuffed up. Nobody really knows. Maybe you're a little nasally. It's not even a big deal. It's natural. Just be yourself, be natural. What about when something goes wrong? Again, well, we're hypothetically lasering on this presentation that somebody makes at a networking event. How do you recover from things like that, whatever it might be? Something falls on the floor, microphone doesn't work, whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one thing that people start immediately apologizing when something happens, and the audience doesn't even know something went wrong the
Mm,
vast majority of the time.
point.
Something went wrong. We'll start with something right here in our brain. I took this one sentence, whoop, I flip-flopped it and said the other one. And all of a sudden in my brain, I'm like, oh, I just messed up. And then I start apologizing. Oh, I'm really sorry. I haven't had a lot of sleep or whatever it is. And then everybody's like, what just happened? Everything was going really, really well. And then they
Mhm.
apologized. So in a presentation, never apologize. You can make fun of it, have some fun with it, but don't apologize for that. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not in
real.
life because we're good people. We want to apologize if we do something wrong, but not in a presentation. And then let's say there was something big that happened and everybody saw it. It's like not a big deal. You fix the problem and move on. And
Yeah.
don't let it ruin your presentation, because it's never about being perfect. And that's what so many people think. It's always, ooh, my presentation has to be perfect.
Yep.
It has to be memorized, planned, choreographed. And when presentations are so memorized, man, to me, they're just flat out boring. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, really, the presentation, it's so flat. And a lot of people think, well, I don't get nervous, because I ask people all the time, do you get nervous? And every once in a while, people raise their hands. Nope, nope, I don't have any nerves. I'm like, yeah, that's probably true. Most everybody does. And I say the people that say they don't, they probably lie about other things as well, because
Mm,
most people do. But there's people that don't, and those people that don't get nervous, maybe it's because they've done the presentation over and over and over. But typically, when people say that, their presentations are the most boring. They're flat.
yeah.
They don't have that energy, that passion. So
Yep.
when somebody is a little bit nervous, that's a good thing. You want that. And if I'm going to be in front of an audience, I don't want to have just no nerves, because I'm not going to have that energy to put into that presentation. So I want them, but it's never having the nerves that take over. You want to be in control, not the nerves in control of you. Those are two separate things. And when you
S-
realize, ooh,
Yeah.
wait a minute, the audience will never know I'm nervous. And those are some of the things that we tell people in the workshops. I tell people all the time, after today or tomorrow, depending on if it's a 1 or 2 day, nobody will ever know you're nervous again for the rest of your life. And people think, oh, no way, there's no way. And I'm saying, wait a minute, wait a minute. I didn't say you will never be nervous. I'm not saying that at all. But the audience will never know you're nervous. And they wouldn't. How could they? If you know what to do with your body, if you know how to stand and how to speak, nobody would ever know. Your heart could be racing, 150 beats a minute, and you're the audience can't see that
Mm.
unless you're giving it away. And how you give it away, it wouldn't just it's rocking back and forth, my hands, I'm all over the place, and I'm going in circles. You're telling the audience you're nervous. So lots of different ways like that. But it's never about being perfect. It's about being effective.
So
And when people
true.
get that piece down, it doesn't matter. You can mess up over and over and over. It doesn't matter.
We just want to be liked and accepted. It's that's my feeling, that you just want to be perceived as somebody that's likable, even if you mess up. And people, I've always remembered this. People will remember not necessarily what you told them, but how you made them feel. So you're that insurance broker up there, and you just delivered it really well. They're not really remembering all the facts and the figures and all of that, but they do remember nice person, really into what they do. They seem to be a leader in their field. I'm going to go with them. That's all you need. Um, for you, how did this
Yeah,
all
that.
begin, Mike? How did it start for you helping others with their presentations?
Well, it really started back. I was the national sales director for a large insurance company, and I
Oh, how
started
funny! How
working.
funny it's insurance, man. I hypothetically brought that up. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Not even kidding.
yeah.
Wow. Hmm.
So I was working with folks around traveling the country, and then having people deliver presentations, and I would bring in a video camera, and we would work on their sales presentations, and it made all the difference in the world. And you're looking at a guy right here that started a presentation skills company 20 years ago. But before that, I remember it was 1993, June 3rd. I
Hmm.
had an absolute panic attack when I was up in front of a room. It was the first time I was ever called in front of a group of people and had to speak. And it was absolutely painful. I was brand new working for this insurance company, 1 month.
Hmm.
And the president of the company, he flew in, and there was probably 1,000 people, and this is in Southern California. All I can think, it's about 4:45 in the afternoon, and all I can think about was, we're going to Morton's after this. And it was going to be awesome. My boss was taking us out, and I was thinking about that big, juicy steak. And then he does this. Hey, we had a new guy start this month and he made a few sales. Where's Mike Fruciano? And also I'm in the back of the room and whoop, I take a big gulp and I'm like, I'm right here. He goes, hey, why don't you come up and talk about your sales process? I'm like, oh, I said, it's okay. I looked down, hoping he'd just go away. He goes, no, don't be shy. Come on up.
Oh,
So I had to walk all the way in front of the room, and he hands me the mic. And all of a sudden, my mind went blank. And, I shake his hand just to, hey, how you doing? Never met this guy before. And all I can think about, just I'm shaking his hand and he's probably thinking, dude, it seems like a half defrosted mackerel. Because I'm sure I was all sweaty, just walking up there, panicked. And I look around and then I start off strong. Nothing would come out. I'm up there for probably, it seemed like 5 minutes. Nothing. I'm looking around. And then I stumble through the whole thing. And I get back to the back. And one of my buddies goes, hey, man, nice job. I said, what do you mean, nice job? Didn't you see what happened? It was terrible. He goes, oh, well, I really couldn't tell. That 5 minutes that I was up there,
wow.
it probably was maybe 5 seconds. But those 5 seconds seems to drag for an eternity. And it was right here in my head. It really wasn't reality.
Mm.
And so at that point, I thought, you know what? I need to get a lot better. I have to conquer this fear because it's going to hold me back. And we believe the number one skill in life is communication. Doesn't matter what industry you're in,
Yep.
communication by far numero uno. So that's when I really started thinking, how am I going to get better at public speaking communications, whether it's one person, whether
Yep.
it's standing up in front of 1,000 like I did that time. It was so that's really was the journey right then that started it. And then we were bringing in, you remember Zig Ziglar? Is that a name you're familiar with?
Sure.
Yeah, so he passed away over a decade. Well, we were bringing Zig in for national sales meetings, and I got a chance to meet him and know him. And he said, Mike, when you leave, the insurance company would love for you to come over and run our outside sales force. So
Wow.
we ended up, our president left over there. And so we came over there and I was the national sales director for the Zig Ziglar Performance Group and ended up doing that. And that's really where this journey started. And it's not, for me, it wasn't just about motivation. It was on how do you add some of the skills that you can use along, the motivation, the passion, really important. But for me, it's technically skill based because once you get the skills down, everybody can do it. And a lot of people think, well, no, she's born that way. Not at all. Every single person could be a really good communicator, knowing the process.
It speaks volumes that you went from this to working with Zig. It really does, right there.
Yeah.
We're out of time. I can keep going. It's like so much fun and there's so much to talk about. How do we find you if somebody has questions or they really want to? It's time for a coach. It's time to move their communication skills forward.
Well, easy. Our website is effectivepresentations.com. Probably the best way. Just go to our website and you can find us right there. Or I'm based in Denver. We have some offices around the country. We're all over the country. I just got back from New York this last week, and we have trainers that travel every week. They're all over the place. But our phone number is 303-278-1265.
Wonderful talking with you. Learned a lot. Love your energy, by the way, Mike. It's infectious. And looking forward next time we get together. There's a lot to talk about here. And as you said, effective communications is everything. Even in your relationships,
Yeah.
when you know how to say what you want to say, it's a game changer. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Same here. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.